Part 2 of lecture 10. So in the previous part, we talked about what is a Bayesian network. And here we're going to talk about how to train a Bayesian network. And from your experience from the previous lectures, you may think like training is kind of difficult because we need to use those gradient descent and stuff, and activating is actually very simple. So classifying should be simple. We're just dot producting the weights and the features and so on. So here it's completely different. Training is very simple, and activating the network is kind of difficult. So first, let's talk about training. So training is the easier part. And the problem is which variables, which weights do we need to train? It turns out we only need to train the weights that are these conditional probabilities. And so you may think that we also need to train the network structure. However, from neural network, we never trained the number of hidden units, the number of hidden layers. So for the same reason, we're not going to train the Bayesian network structure. So at the end of this part, I'll actually talk about maybe we can figure something out. But at the moment, we'll assume, given some kind of domain knowledge, like some medical knowledge or some psychology theory knowledge, or maybe just common sense, like fire and cat example, you can use common sense to figure out like Happy calling me is not causing the fire to create a problem or the cat to create a problem. So we can use some common sense to build a network that way. So basically, what we want to do is just to figure out these conditional probabilities. And we're going to use the same thing as what we did in natural language processing, which is, well, maximum likelihood estimation, just a fancy name for we're just computing the fraction of time this value is xj given the parents are taking these pxj values. So again, we're going to count the number of times xj is taking on value xj, and the parents, basically the other features that influence this feature, taking on that particular value at the same time, divided by the number of times those values take on these specific values. So I think it's hard to explain here, but once you see an example, you all understand very quickly. So let me do an example. Table. And let's see, make it a bit larger. So a reminder that these variables are fire, cat, let me go back to pen, fire, cat, alarm, happy, and Nick Fury. So suppose we have the data for 8 days, say day 1. In day 1, nothing happens, but happy calls me. So probably because of Aunt May, or maybe something else. But well, we will not talk about these things. Say day 2, cat is causing a problem, but the alarm is not sounding, so it's kind of broken alarm. Well, no one calls me. And same for day 3. Both of them are calling me for like maybe independent reasons. In any case, we usually call this like instance number 1. So this is x11, x12, x13. These are features again, and instance number 2, and so on. So which are the things we need to estimate, like the conditional probabilities? The first one, easiest one, is just f. It's not dependent on anything. So count the number of f's and divide by the total number, so it's just 1/8. There's 1/8 probability there's a fire. Let's calculate something more complicated. Say the probability of happy calling me given that there is an alarm. So this probability is the number of times both of them are happening. So h is 1, a is 1. So there are 1, 2, and 3. Divide by the number of times a is 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so again, straightforward. And we can do the same thing for the probability that happy is calling me given there's no alarm, so probably an Aunt May or something. but let's count that. So H is 1, A is 0. So one of them, two of them, so there are only two, divided by the number of times A is 0, so there are 4 of these. There are different 4s, by the way. So it's a half. So half of the time, Happy is calling me for like no-alarm reasons. And we can calculate the same thing for Nick Fury calling me. And let's count how many times is N1 and A0. So 1 and 2. So okay, so 2 over also the same thing, 4, right? So A0 is 4. So it's also a half. Now let's talk about the one that you are actually interested in. I know you noticed that already, but I'm going to do that last. So let's do something that maybe does not cause a problem, like probability of alarm given there's no fire and there's no cat. And let's say this is the number of times A is 1 and fire is 0, cat is 0. So when are these happening? Like these 4 divided by the number of times these are 0. So 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so 2/3 of the time nothing is happening and there's an alarm. So the alarm is broken. Like not that there's a fire and it's not sounding, but well, that's also happening. Now let's talk about the one that everyone is interested in. Alarm given there's a fire and there's a cat problem. So all 3 of them being 1, never. These 2 being 1, also never. So what is this? So remember we had this problem when we talk about natural language processing, like I am Groot is the only way these variables, I mean these words are arranged. So any other version never happened. So we have those 0 over 0 problems. So remember we fixed that by this Laplace smoothing thing. So we can also do it here, and we're going to just add 1 to all the possible counts. So the only difference is we're adding a number of possible values of j on the denominator. So for example, here, A given fire and cat is basically never happened plus 1, never happened plus the number of different values A can take, either 0 or 1, so 2. So here we are basically just assuming that half the time the alarm will sound and half the time it will not. So basically we don't know anything. So we're just going to assume half and half. Not a great guess, I'd say, but that's the best guess we can get. So we'll just leave it like this. Okay, so Laplace smoothing is, again, considered as regularization. So it's not overfitting the data. So suppose something never happened, we'll not use 0 as probability because that will cause problems. So we'll use, say, 1 over a large number as a small probability that things never occurred in the training data may occur. So that's, again, not overfitting the training data. Okay, in this slide, there are typos, so I need to fix this. So this is not projection, this is product. And there's also a problem with this. So I'll fix this, and the version that I will be posting, like after I post this video, will be corrected. So and also let's not look at these things. It's kind of messy. So I'll show you an example, and then you will see what I mean. Okay, so let's go back to the fire cat problem, and they are causing the alarm, and the alarm is causing Happy and Nick to call me. Suppose we're interested in figuring out whether Happy will call me given there's no fire and no cat. So the problem would be, say, we're treating Happy calling me as the label Y. We're going to compute, like we're going to guess whether Happy will call me given that nothing is happening. So the first step is, of course, just using the definition of conditional probability is just H, not F, not C, divided by the probability of not F, not C. So this is a definition of conditional probability. And this one is just, they are independent. Probability not C. So in the conditional probability table, we have the probability of F. So it's 1 minus F and 1 minus probability of C. So this is in the CPT, conditional probability table, and this is also in CPT. So we know the denominator. Let's now focus on the numerator. So directly doing this is kind of hard because we don't have the A in the middle. So maybe we want to add A back. So let's first do that, and then after I go through the whole thing, you'll know why I'm doing this. So let's add an A. Remember, there's something called marginal distribution. So this is the marginal of this complete joint distribution with A, and adding up all possible values of A. So again, there are only two possible values of A, and we're adding them up to get the marginal distribution here. And let's figure out what each of them is. So first, let's try this one. Let me actually do it on the next page. So this is a joint distribution, but we are given the conditional probability table. So we are given something like H, given the other ones. And what do I need to multiply back? A, this, and this. So if you look at the formula of H given AFC, it is just HAFC divided by AFC, right? So if you multiply these, you can get that joint probability back. So this factorization is working. And note something important here. N and FC, they are dependent because there is a link from F and C to to H, sorry. However, if we know A, then remember the causal chain slide, F, C, and H, they are conditionally independent if we already know A. So if you forgot, you can go back to that slide and look at the formula. It actually says, if two things are conditionally independent, given the A, we can just get rid of these. And what's H given A? H given A is a direct link, so we already have the conditional probability in the conditional probability table. So we already know half of it. Now let's look at this. So we don't have this. We're going to do the same thing again. A given not F, not C, multiplied by not F, not C. So what is this? This is A given F and C. So again, this is in CPT. So if you look at the beginning of this example, which values do we have in the conditional probability table? This is actually one of them. Okay, so lastly, this part, we solved it already. So it's just 1 minus this, 1 minus the other one. And this is in CPT, and this is in CPT. Okay, so we have all of them. We trained the CPT already. So these values are from training. And then we can just take the product, and then we get our new probability now. Right? So doing this looks like it's very complicated. But there's one thing you want to notice is that here we have all of these variables. And we are only given their parents. So maybe this is a pattern, and indeed it is. You can check it for any other joint probability. So let's use this pattern to write the other one down. So here if we take the product of H given the parents A, here is not A, because H has parent A, and then not A given the parents is F and C, so not F and not C, and F given parents, and then C given parents. They don't have parents, so we just multiply them together. If you verify this using the same method we did before, you can see that this is correct. So basically, the formula is, if we want the join probability, you just take the product of every one of these given all the parents. So that's all you do, right? So that actually simplifies a lot of things. However, this is still hard to compute. We still have to multiply a lot of things, and when we are implementing this, you need to very carefully figure out which ones we are multiplying. So we're not going to do this actually. So we are going to use a very simple version called naive Bayes that I'll talk about in the next part of this lecture. But in like 760, you will be actually implementing this. So let's have fun with that. And from my experience, it's very difficult. So that's basically it. Given some training data, we know the acyclic graph, the network structure. The training is basically figuring these out. We talked about this already, so we just count them using MLE and use Laplace smoothing. So that's basically all we do in training. And when we are actually activating the network, we need to use these ideas here, basically multiplying the conditional probability table values.